Hey everybody, welcome to the Royal Overland workshop. My name is Sam and I am standing behind this pile of rust. At least that's probably what it looks like to everyone, other than Joey and I as we embarked on this project. This video will serve as our introduction. We'll be starting a series on the Royal Overland and four-wheel drive factory Beachrunner. So this is the chassis for the Beachrunner. We've got some time-lapse photos and videos of how we took a old abandoned Defender 90 and brought it to this amazing specimen right here. All kidding aside, the first stage of this build for SEMA 2021 is not all that interesting. Quite a bit of dirt, grease, grime, mud, and a lot of teardown. So we wanted to introduce you guys to the project and hope that you'll subscribe and follow along and watch us build this thing. But the first part's not all that fun to look at, so we're going to pack today's video full of time-lapse and initial teardown content. And at the end of the video, we'll show some more fun stuff like metal fabrication and the beginning of some of the custom design work we were doing on the chassis. But to get us started, sit back and bear with me through some time-lapse video of us tearing apart the cab, pulling the bodywork off, ripping the axles off from underneath the chassis, disassembling the axles, some pressure washing, and then lots of removing rust, because there was quite a bit of rust on this chassis before we got to where we are right now. And you're going to see a lot of sparks flying and a lot of bits and pieces hitting the floor as we get this chassis to what it is that we want it to become moving forward for our project. So again, this is the introduction video for our Beachrunner project. Thrilled to have you guys watching it. Hopefully there'll be some interesting things along the way that you can pick up to apply to your projects that you have in your garage. And hopefully you see some really cool parts that you want to implement in your builds. We've got some awesome partners on board. You're going to see some things being installed on this car, or some components that we're using as part of our fabrication on this car that I think you'll really enjoy. It's our personal opinion that the Land Rover world just doesn't have the same kind of custom energy and custom fabrication and design energy that a lot of other segments of the automotive industry have. Most of the Defenders that are out there on the market, it's a lot of parts changing, and I don't mean that as an insult to what people are doing with these amazing, beautiful, nice driving Defenders on the market, but a lot of it is stock components being removed and replaced. There'll be small upgrades here and there. If you're a Defender person or a Land Rover person, I'm sure you've seen the new wave of this LS craze, but that's been going on in the hot rod industry for a long, long time, and it's just kind of now coming into Land Rovers. So I think that Land Rovers are a decade or so behind on some of the cool custom aspects that we see in a lot of the other sections of the automotive industry. So the goal here with this project is to really create something special that's different than the other Land Rovers that you see being built right now, and really just utilize some of the ideas, concepts, parts, both suspension, drivetrain, interior styling, just anything that's being done in other parts of the automotive industry, bringing that to a Land Rover based product. And we got a great platform to do it on because this thing's really a blank canvas, and introducing it at the SEMA show is an awesome opportunity to bring Land Rovers into the eyes of people that are already doing a lot of custom work, but then vice versa, bring a lot of custom work into the eyes of the market for Land Rover people as well. So hope you enjoy what you're about to see. Please do follow along. Keep in contact with us as we go through. Follow us on Instagram. You'll see a lot of day-to-day on this thing. Instagram stories at Royal Overland CO. Follow along. Watch us build this thing in real time. And as we move along, when there's some serious updates to do, I'll bring the camera out and we'll walk through that, and we'll post some more updates here on YouTube as well. But for now, sit back, watch the build, and I hope you enjoy what you're about to see. And if you do like it and you're interested in having us do something like this for you, reach out to us. We got a full shop that's turning and burning on stuff like this every day. This is just a purely before 9 and after 5 side project, while all of our customer cars are filling up our day-to-day. So that's all I've got for now. Enjoy. So it is Tuesday, June 29th, 7 o'clock in the morning. Got to the shop. Want to do a quick run through of where we're at on this Beachrunner project, because it doesn't look like much. We've got probably 40 hours in frame repair so far. So I wanted to walk you through it. Just even though this isn't really part of the project per se, because if we had started with a better frame, we wouldn't have needed to do any of this, or wouldn't have needed to have done any of this. But it's part of our task list nonetheless. So the back sections here, see there's pieces grafted in on the top on both sides. And even though one side was worse than the other, we made them match. So equal length sections, which was actually cool because it allowed us to go in there with a shop vac and wire wheel and wire brushes and really clean the inside of the chassis there in the back section and get that fixed properly. So using 1/8 inch plate, it's a thicker material than what the frame was made out of originally. It's a little stronger back there, it's cleaner, it's not going to continue to rust from the inside out. Awesome. The chassis is upside down right now, mind you, right? So as we're looking at this, this is really the bottom of the chassis. Obviously, you know, these things tend to rust from the inside out, and they do so from bottom to top. So what you're looking at here on both sides, and of course I got some tools in the way, is our lower frame rail chassis repair. I'll get these out of the way. So we did it on both sides. And what we did is essentially just cut a straight line right there. Cut 4 identical patch panels, which you may have seen me cutting on the bandsaw. Overlaid those onto the frame, scribed a line, cut out the bends that were in the sheet metal on the frame just from it being so thin and taking a shot or two. So we got rid of the warp, and we also got rid of the rust by grafting those in. So the sides, inside and outside, side panels are now 1/8 inch plate, and the bottom was made out of 3 inch wide strap, cut down to about 2 3/4, which is the width of the frame rail, and that's 1/8 inch as well. So now all of our reinforcement pieces are made out of stronger metal than the frame originally had. So that was done there on the bottom. And then we've got these 1/4 inch thick fish plates from Barnes 4-wheel drive. So we've fish plated where we've tied it in. So now there's a fish plate at every junction, which is all welded in on top nicely, which looks good. Moving forward on the inside, we'll get these out of the way here. On the inside of the frame, there's a cross member that bolts in here, and then 2 more holes here that are yet to be drilled on each side. And it's just a big piece of plate with a bar between it that runs from the left frame rail to the right frame rail. And it created a pocket between 2 pieces of metal where it rusted out. So you can see the still photos that I'll put in here. There was significant rust there. And also from the metal thinning and off-roading and twisting the chassis, it's not super uncommon. You'll see the inside frame rails start to warp a little bit and get waves in them. So on both sides of this chassis here, we cut out that rust and we cut out the waves. And so now, 1/8 inch plate again, much stronger, laser straight, and no rust. Of course, we boat welded it in, kind of floated it out with weld, ground it, and then D8'd it. So very difficult to kind of see where that patch is in, which was what we wanted. We didn't want it to look like it had been laminated or double layered. We cut out the old bad metal, wave passed so that it's, you know, welding good to good, and got that new metal in there. So moving forward here this morning, our next task is going to be to cut these coil buckets off in the front. So we're going to be removing these guys here. Of course, we're doing all coilovers on this car, so not doing the old horse and buggy coil spring. So this one's already been initially chopped off. We got a lot of grinding left to do here.
You know, whenever you cut stuff off these frame rails, it's quick chopping them off. It's all the grinding and floating and repair work after the fact that's so time consuming. So this one's been chopped and ready for prep to smooth it all out. We'll probably end up laminating that frame rail up there behind the shock tower just for some extra strength. But you'll see I haven't touched this one yet, so have quite a bit of cutting and surface finishing to do on this side here. And then last but not least, we've got these ugly guys. Let me just clamp out of the way so you can truly appreciate just how awful this is. You can see I was tempted to try to fix this. Gouged it out and tried to lay in some weld. Tried to lay in some weld on top as well. Look, the metal's too far gone. I thought maybe we could overlay it with some heavy plate, make it super strong, chop out this rust over here, and make it serviceable. It's just not gonna happen. That's not in the cards. So both sides, left and right, of course the frame's upside down, so even though it's on the right hand side of the car, this is the left outrigger. This is the right outrigger. So under the passenger side, and basically this bolt right here is what holds the firewall to the chassis. And then that hole up there is for the front radius arm. We are keeping radius arms on the car, so that up there has to stay. That's fine. We're gonna remove this, and we're gonna remove this. And I think it's gonna be a pretty cool opportunity to just throw some of our style at this build and build this tubular. Basically, we'll float this mounting point in space. We'll jig that up and have a fixed point out here that's jigged to the chassis. And then we'll connect this dot to this frame surface with something that we create and that we build that kind of shows our style a little bit, as opposed to just using an off-the-shelf repair piece, which is going to do the same thing. I mean, this is a Beachrunner, and so it's going to get full of sand and debris, and there's this huge pocket on the inside that's completely open. It can get full of crap, and that's what happened. This whole thing was full. So we're going to get hopping on that. You'll see me chop this off, and you'll see me do the same thing over here. This one obviously isn't this bad on the top part, but the bottom of it, again, the frame's upside down, the bottom of it is toasted. So you'll see us chop that off and remake it out of either DOM tubing or maybe some square tube, put some interesting bends and gussets in it, make it super strong, and just kind of tie it into the overall aesthetic of the build. And we'll do the same thing at the rear cross member. We're gonna make a custom cross member instead of just using an off-the-shelf one. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up here this week. All right, Beachrunner update here. Last video update ended before we cut off this outrigger here. So frame's upside down again, so this is the passenger side that's closest to me. So this is the old outrigger, and yeah, wow. Obviously it's been patched a number of times. Not very well. It's it's all sheet metal, like actual sheet metal. I mean, we're talking like not even 14 gauge, it's like 16 gauge. Super, super thin. But Yeah, this was the old outrigger. It's right here. So what we've done is cut away everything that had to do with the old outrigger. When we flip the frame over, we've got some more to do here, which is fine. We'll get to that when it's flipped over. But this is 1/8 inch. This is 3/16. Just like we did over here, we'll grind all this smooth, make it look like it's all one piece, and that's why it's flushed in there, butt welded. So the outside dimension of the original frame and the outside dimension of this 1/8 inch, they're in plane with one another. So because this is thicker than the frame rail on the inside, this protrudes into the frame completely fine, but it is butted up against each other so that this plane and this plane are, well, they're coplanar. Brings me to how we're going to mount the bulkhead. So the bulkhead originally mounted to the back face of this guy right here. It actually bolted to this guy. So this was in space here. The bulkhead came in contact with this right here. So what we did is I put this bolt through this piece before we cut it off. So where this bolt head is right here, this plane, along with that hole, is the critical feature. That's completely critical, as well as the angle, the pitch and yaw here of that bolt. So I put it all the way through, and then welded this arm, which is very sturdy. It's a 120 wall 1-inch DOM. Welded it on the bottom of the frame, and then welded it to this bolt head here to locate this basically cylindrical space to the frame in space. This way, if the frame moves at all, this moves with it, so it's fine. And bumping into it, you're not going to move this thing. So cut all this off, then grabbed a piece of 1 3/4 DOM tubing and capped it, put it in the lathe, polished it down, and buzzed the welds down just so that it kind of looks cool. Looks like it was maybe solid stock. Got a little bit more work to do on it. See the TIG welds there, kind of exposed, but we'll get it all machined down like this side was. Little pitting here and there, it doesn't really bother me. This is underneath the car, but cool piece. Anyway, this slides over this, and now, just as it was before, that plane right there with the hole in it, located perfectly in space. So the next project here is going to be building from this to the frame, but staying low because the radius arm comes out of here forward. So we're going to keep our bracket on the bottom half of this plate here over, and we'll do some type of fish plating on the frame once this is all ground down. We'll do some double layer just to make sure that we've got plenty of strength to go over on there. But we're going to triangulate it and kind of do some cool tube work. So we'll have a tube coming out here, fish mouth onto the back of this. We'll probably have a miter joint on another tube coming in here, comes over, we'll interface into this radius arm mount in an interesting way. And then we'll run some plate gussets over here just to further triangulate this thing. There's a lot that holds the bulkhead on. This does need to be strong, but it doesn't need to be end-all be-all roll the car. This supports it strong, but it will be. We're going to be using 120 wall DOM tube, which is quite a bit stronger than this 14 gauge sheet metal stamped box. So that's where we're at now. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Still have that outrigger on there right now, but you can see I do have the got the bolt in there. Got the bolt in there. So basically the idea is, I mean, yeah, this is a Beachrunner. It's going to be in the sand. Probably, you know, water, wet sand likes to accumulate places. And these boxes, again, this is upside down right now, but these boxes just hold all kinds of stuff. And what will happen is sand can get up in here. You can see my fingers coming through. So this whole area, you know, these holes are easy to get plugged. It'll fill with sand, and as it rots through the frame, it starts to go in there and get in the frame as well. which is what happened on this car. Obviously you can see just how nasty and rusted this thing became, because it was full of mud. We flushed it out, pressure washed it out, and shoved the pressure washer in the frame and blasted it all out. Took a lot of cleaning to get this thing, even though it's still dirty, took a lot of cleaning to get it where it is now, because these frames like to hold dirt and debris and mud and hay and grass and whatever else. So I'm gonna do away with that. But by using DOM and making sure that all the entrances and exits to those tubes are blocked off, now stuff can't get in there to accumulate. So that's the last update.